pink meltwater reaches the toe of my right boot just as Graham says my name. Not Mara, not Ms. Vale, my full name, the way people say it when they want a room to understand that a decision has already been made. Mara Vale ignored the alarm. The evaporator fans hum above us. 30 feet of spoiled hamachi, scallops, uni, and sablefish sit under blue quarantine wraps sweating into the drains. It is Monday's cold room audit. Our biggest client is standing beside the ruined stock, and Northline Seafood's board, My Family, is watching from the doorway. Graham points to a printed alarm report. She acknowledged it at 12:14 Sunday morning. I did what? He turns to Luis from security. Take her badge. Luis hesitates. Now, please. My Aunt June looks at the floor while Luis removes the badge from my coat. The yellow wax pencil clipped beside it knocks once against the plastic before disappearing into his hand. That is the sound I remember. Not Graham's accusation, not the fans. A cheap pencil tapping my badge while the woman who taught me to check every lock twice cannot look me in the face. Dana Chen, Quality Director for Meridian Dining Group, steps around the spreading water. She is wearing a white inspection coat over a charcoal suit, and the disposable blue covers on her shoes have begun to leak. Which alarm? I ask. Graham folds the report against his clipboard. This isn't the place. You made it the place. Our Chief Financial Officer, Paul Renner, makes a small sound in his throat. Paul makes that sound whenever the truth has become expensive. Graham's face stays composed. He is good at that. He can stand beside $80,000 of ruined fish and look as though the problem has arrived in a form he knows how to solve. At 12:14, he says, the system sent a high-temperature alarm to the weekend inventory contact. Your credentials acknowledged it 6 minutes later. The room stayed above specification for another 5 hours. My credentials? Your initials are on the report. Initials aren't credentials. Dana's eyes move from him to me. She has the stillness of someone who gets more information by letting other people rush. Graham holds up the page. Near the bottom, inside a gray box, I can see MV beside Alarm Acknowledged. I know the format. It is the weekly summary generated by Northline Sentinel monitoring software. It shows what management chooses to export. It is useful for routine files and nearly useless for an investigation. What temperature? I ask. 44.3 at the peak. The answer lands harder than the accusation. The fresh room is set at 34. A bad door seal might push it to 37. A careless receiver could hold the door open long enough to touch 39. 44 means a mechanical failure or a deliberate change. I look toward the control panel beside the insulated door. Its green display reads 34.1. When did the set point change? Graham's jaw moves once. The investigation is ongoing. Then why am I already guilty? June finally looks up. Mara. My aunt can put 6 different meanings into 2 syllables. This one means stop before you make it worse for all of us. Dana crouches beside the nearest pallet. She touches the edge of a waterproof lot card taped under the blue wrap. Was this pallet rewrapped? She asks. Graham answers too quickly. Quarantine procedure. I see it then. A yellow wax line starts on the card, crosses the clear tape, and continues onto the plastic wrap. Or it should. The line on the card sits half an inch higher than the line on the wrap. I check the next pallet. Same break. The third is worse. Someone tried to redraw the missing section, but the wax is cleaner and brighter. Every Saturday after I reconcile the physical count against the inventory system, I seal the lot cards that way. The warehouse crew calls it Mara's kindergarten art. Ink smears in condensation. Wax stays where I put it. Luis, I say, please don't throw away my pencil. His eyebrows pull together. I wasn't planning to. Put it with the badge. Write down the time you took both. Graham's patience slips. That's enough. No, it's chain of custody. For a pencil? For anything you're taking from me. Luis looks at June. She gives him a faint nod. He takes a clear property pouch from his belt, drops in my badge and pencil, and writes 8:17 a.m. on the label. His handwriting is square and careful. He spent 22 years working security at the port before Northline hired him, and he treats a visitor sticker like a controlled substance. Graham steps between me and the pallets. "You're suspended pending review. You'll turn over your keys, company phone, and laptop. My locker is outside. Luis will accompany you. Am I considered a security risk? Don't make this theatrical." I glance at the board arranged behind him. Paul is studying his shoes. Graham's father, Warren, has both hands clasped over his belt. Our outside board member, Denise Holloway, is the only one taking notes. June stands in the center in her navy wool coat, silver hair tucked behind one ear. She founded Northline with 2 rented refrigerated trucks and a second-hand fax machine. She also taught me that if a number makes you uncomfortable, you check the instrument before blaming the person reading it. Now she says, "Go with Luis, Mara." Dana rises from the pallet. A drop of pink water falls from her glove. "Ms. Vale," she says to me, "what was your last physical count in this room?" "Saturday, finished at 4:42. Any exceptions?" 2 cases of scallops arrived at 38.1. I placed them on hold 3, notified receiving, and logged them for secondary inspection. Everything else was within spec. "Did you photograph the hold?" "I photograph every hold." Graham exhales through his nose. "Dana will provide the full file." "I'm sure you will," she says. It sounds courteous. It does not sound comforting. Luis walks me through the warehouse while the cold room door closes behind us. Monday receiving has already begun. A forklift chirps in reverse near Dock 2. Men in orange freezer jackets stack insulated totes of oysters under a sign that says, "Shell stock tags stay with product." Somebody has burned the first pot of coffee in the break room, and the smell has somehow traveled farther than the fish. Nobody asks why security is escorting me. They look at the floor, the racks, their scanners. Anywhere else? At my locker, Luis turns his back while I remove my purse and change out of my insulated coat. There is a photograph taped inside the door of me, June and Graham at the opening of the new packing line 3 years ago. Graham has one arm around each of us. June is laughing. I am holding the ceremonial scissors because I spent 6 months mapping product flow for equipment everyone called Graham's expansion. I peel the photograph off the metal and put it in my purse. Luis watches me surrender my keys. "You want me to inventory these?" "Yes. Office, cage, receiving cabinet, locker. And the small brass one is the calibration cupboard." He writes each item down. My company phone is on the bench. Before handing it over, I open the inventory app and confirm the Saturday count still shows as synced. 4:42 p.m. 26 photos attached. Graham appears in the locker room doorway. "Phone," he says. "I'm verifying that company records uploaded properly before surrender. You don't have authorization to access anything now. I haven't received a suspension notice." "You received it verbally. Then put the time in writing." His eyes narrow. Graham smiles when he is angry in public. 8:17. "That's when Luis took my badge. You arrived here at 8:29. Luis checks his watch and writes something on his form. Graham's smile disappears. I show Luis the sync confirmation, lock the screen, and give him the phone. Then I remove my company laptop from its dock in the inventory office. Graham follows us there, close enough that I can smell his cedar aftershave. My desk sits in what used to be a supply alcove. 2 metal shelves, a battered filing cabinet, and a view of the label printer. Graham promised me a real office after the Meridian launch. He said the promotion paperwork was sitting on June's desk. On top of my keyboard is a pink message slip. Ray D, refrigeration, Sat 510. Asked if Bay fan part arrived. The handwriting belongs to Carla at reception. She dots her I's with circles, even on freight claims. I pick up the slip. Graham takes it from my hand. Company property. Everything in here is company property. That's correct. Then preserve it. He folds the slip once and slides it into his pocket. I look directly at Luis. Please note that Mr. Vale removed a Saturday message from my desk at 8:33. For the first time that morning, Graham loses control of his face, only for a second. Then the corners of his mouth lift again. "You're confused about what's happening here, Mara." "I'm becoming less confused by the minute." Luis's pen scratches across the form. Graham steps closer. His voice drops. "Dana's contract supports 40% of our packing staff. We have a lender review on Wednesday. Whatever you think you're doing, consider the consequences." There it is, not quite a threat, almost an appeal. That is Graham's particular talent. He can hand you a knife by the blade and make you feel guilty that he is bleeding. "If Meridian matters that much," I say, "why was their product in a room at 44 degrees? His gaze flicks toward Luis. "I'm not discussing an active review. You discussed it in front of the board when you blamed me." I stated what the records show. "You showed one export." He steps back. "Luis, finish up." I hand over the laptop, the backup scanner, and the red key for the quarantine cage. The last item in my drawer is a pocket notebook with a black cloth cover. I use it for truck arrival times, seal numbers, questions to reconcile later, and the occasional grocery list. Graham holds out his hand. "That belongs to me. You used it for work. I'll copy any relevant pages in your presence. You'll surrender it now." Luis clears his throat. Personal notebooks are listed for review, not automatic seizure. Graham looks at him. "Since when?" "Since the property policy was revised in March. I approved that revision." "Yes, sir." For one beautiful, ridiculous moment, neither of them moves. Then Graham says, "Bag it separately." She gets a receipt. Luis places the notebook in a second pouch and seals it. It feels like losing a small part of my memory. Outside, the February air is warmer than the warehouse and smells faintly of diesel from the loading yard. My car is parked beyond the employee gate, but my badge is gone, so Luis has to let me through. He keeps the property pouches tucked under his arm. "Your pencil's getting yellow dust all over the bag," he says. "It does that." Probably ruined my uniform. "I'll reimburse the company." He almost smiles. At the gate, he hands me 2 receipts. One lists the badge, pencil, keys, phone, laptop, and scanner. The other lists my notebook. "Who gets custody?" I ask. "Me until June assigns the review." "Not Graham?" "Not if I can help it." The answer surprises me enough that I look up. Luis studies the barcode on the property pouch. "My wife buys the scallops here every Christmas. You put a hold on her order 2 years ago." "They were warm." She was furious. I remember. "You sent her somewhere else and wrote down what she should ask for." He shrugs. "She still complains about you, but she buys here because you held them." He turns back toward the building before I can thank him. June calls while I'm sitting in my car with both hands locked around the steering wheel. I let it ring twice, then answer. "Where are you?" she asks. "In the employee lot." "You shouldn't drive upset." "I'm suspended. Is sitting in the lot also against policy?" She sighs. "Come to the house." "I want the suspension in writing. We can discuss paperwork later. I want it today, including the accusation, the records you intend to review, and who has custody of my property." Her silence lasts long enough for a refrigerated truck to grind past me. Then she says, "Graham believes you're trying to embarrass him in front of Meridian." He had security take my badge in front of Meridian. He was under pressure. So was the fish. "Mari, did you know he was going to accuse me?" Another silence. Through the windshield, I can see Graham behind the glass wall of the second-floor conference room. He is speaking to Dana, one hand open on the table, calm and reasonable. Dana is reading the alarm report. June says, "Come to the house at 6. Warren and Denise will be there. We'll work out a statement that protects you." A true statement? One that protects you. That answers more than she intended. "Send me the suspension notice," I say, "and preserve the Sentinel logger in place." The logger is company equipment. Yes, that's why the company should preserve it. "Mara, please come tonight as family." I watch Graham point to something on the page. Dana looks through the conference room glass toward the cold room corridor. "If this were family," I say, "you would have looked at me." June inhales sharply. I end the call before she can decide whether to apologize or punish me. Then I take the property receipts from my purse and study Luis's square handwriting. At the bottom of the first page, beneath the list of surrendered items, he has added one line I did not ask for. Yellow wax pencil visibly used. Collected with badge. I look back at Northline's cold white building and think of the broken yellow marks under the quarantine wrap. Someone moved those lot cards, and whoever did it knew exactly what my pencil was supposed to prove. June opens her front door before I knock. "You're 3 minutes early," she says. "You taught me that on time is late." Her mouth tightens at the reminder. She steps aside, and I enter the house where Northline's first invoices are framed in the hallway like family portraits. June has lived here for 31 years without ever finding a comfortable place for anyone to sit. Every chair is beautiful, firm, and slightly too far from the next one. Voices come from the dining room. "You said family," I tell her. "It is family." Denise Holloway is seated at the table with a legal pad. Paul Renner has spread a folder beside his water glass. Warren stands at the sideboard pouring bourbon, although he quit drinking on weeknights after his cardiologist gave him a lecture. Graham is at the head of the table, in June's chair. "That's the board," I say. "This concerns the board." "Then it isn't a family conversation." June closes the front door. "Sit down, Mara." There is a place set for me beside Denise. No dinner, just a glass of water and a manila folder aligned with the edge of the table. June takes the chair opposite Graham. Warren raises his drink toward me. Hell of a mess. He says it almost warmly. Warren likes me when nothing important is at stake. Paul slides the folder across the table. "This is the written notice you requested." I read the first paragraph. "I am suspended with pay for 5 business days, pending investigation into failure to respond to an environmental alarm, inaccurate inventory release, and potential falsification of a monitoring record." Potential falsification? Graham folds his hands. "Your initials appear on an acknowledgement you say you didn't make. That requires explanation." From whoever exported the report. The software produces the report. People choose the date range and fields. Denise's pen moves. "Is that true, Graham?" "All reporting software has filters. Did you apply them?" "My team generated the packet." "You have 6 people on your team," I say. "Who did it?" His eyes settle on me. "This is why we wanted to meet. The conversation will go more smoothly if you stop treating every question as an accusation." I look around the table. Warren studies the amber in his glass. Paul touches the corner of the folder. Denise keeps writing. June's hands are flat on the polished wood. "I'm not sure smooth is available to us," I say. Paul turns to the second section. "Northline is prepared to classify the incident as a procedural lapse rather than misconduct. You would accept responsibility for failing to ensure weekend alarm coverage. In return, the company would provide 8 weeks severance, continue benefits through the end of next month, and give a neutral employment reference. I'm suspended with pay for 5 days, and you already have severance paperwork. It's an option," June says. "It's typed." Paul types quickly, Warren says. Denise glances at him. "Apparently faster than we investigate." Warren takes a drink. I read the proposed statement. The language is neat, bloodless, and built to travel. It says, "I regret the oversight." It says, "I failed to maintain appropriate vigilance." It says, "Northline responded promptly upon discovering the temperature deviation." That last sentence makes me laugh. Graham's head lifts. "What's funny?" The room was warm for 5 hours. Then the product sat there until Monday so Dana could see it. Which part was prompt? The stock was placed under hold Sunday morning. By whom? Operations. Name. He leans back. "You don't get to conduct this meeting." "No, I just get to confess at it." June rubs one thumb over the other. Her wedding ring turns a fraction around her finger. "Mara, the lender review is Wednesday." There it is. There what is? The thing this meeting is actually about. Graham looks toward June, but she keeps her eyes on me. Northline's new hub is supposed to double our refrigerated capacity and move packing away from the loading docks. Graham negotiated the equipment package, the municipal incentives, and most of the financing. He has spent a year carrying rolled plans through the warehouse and letting everyone imagine their name on a new office door. A major food safety dispute 2 days before lender review could freeze the loan. June says, "If Meridian walks, the bank will question our projections." I understand. Then understand that your choice affects more than you. So did raising that room to 44 degrees. Warren's glass touches the table too hard. You keep saying that as if Graham went in there and turned a dial. I keep saying it because a properly operating room doesn't accidentally pick a convenient tempering temperature. Graham gives a patient little smile. 44 isn't a convenient tempering temperature. It is if you're trying to accelerate product without tripping the 50-degree escalation threshold in the old SOP. The smile stays, but something behind it changes. Denise notices. What product needed accelerating? Nothing, Graham says. The hamachi container arrived late, I say. The tempering bay was waiting on a fan motor. Meridian's launch allocation was short. Warren looks at his son. Was it? We had several options under review. Did one of those options involve the fresh room? Denise asks. No. Did you speak with Ray Dombrowski on Sunday? Graham's gaze snaps to me. I say, did you? That service message was company property. If you photographed it, I didn't. Then you have no idea what it concerned. I know Ray called Saturday about the bay fan. You removed the message from my desk after suspending me. Paul adjusts his glasses. There should be a record of that. Luis made one. Graham looks at Paul. Security logs routine collection activity. It doesn't mean anything. Then it won't hurt you, I say. June reaches for the proposed statement and turns it toward herself. We are getting lost. No, Denise says. We're getting specific. June's expression hardens. She and Denise have known each other since they negotiated loading permits at the old Fulton Street facility. Denise was invited onto the board because she was the only consultant June trusted to tell her when an idea was foolish. June enjoys that quality most when it is aimed at someone else. Denise taps her pen against her pad. Was the Sentinel logger preserved in place? Yes, Graham says. Has anyone accessed its local memory? My team pulled the necessary report. That wasn't my question. The device is part of an active cold room. Authorized personnel have normal access. I turn to Paul. Please add a preservation instruction. Logger, controller, user history, alarm routing, camera footage, badge entries, receiving records, quarantine records, and all report exports. Paul glances at June. Graham says, this is becoming absurd. Why? Because you're an inventory assistant making demands as if you're outside counsel. I'm an employee accused in writing of falsifying a monitoring record, and we're offering you a clean exit. Clean for whom? Warren pushes away from the table and walks to the sideboard. Mara, take the money. The words are soft, almost kind. He pours more bourbon without looking at me. The business has to survive this week. Later, when things settle down, June can help you land somewhere. You're good with stock. People know that. Your son just told our largest client, I'm dishonest. He told them what the paper shows. One paper. You think a restaurant group cares about family nuances? They want a person responsible. We give them one. They stay. We argue among ourselves about software fields. They leave. June closes her eyes briefly. There it is, stated plainly enough that nobody can pretend it was a misunderstanding. Graham says, Dad, that's not what we're doing. Warren turns, surprised. Of course it is. Even Denise stops writing. Graham's voice becomes careful. We're determining accountability based on available evidence. Warren studies him, then gives a small shrug. Fine. That. I look at June. Did you bring me here to find the truth or to make me affordable? Her face loses color. I brought you here, she says, because I thought you would trust me to keep the company alive. I trusted you this morning. She flinches. Graham pushes the folder toward me. You have until noon tomorrow. After that, the offer changes. Why? Because Meridian expects a corrective action report, and you need my signature for the version you already wrote. His fingers flatten against the folder. Be very careful, Mara. This industry remembers people who make a problem larger out of pride. I close the folder without taking it. It also remembers temperatures. Denise's pen resumes moving. In the hallway, June catches my sleeve before I reach the door. Wait. I stop, but I do not turn around until she lets go. The others are still in the dining room. Warren's voice carries through the doorway, low and irritated. Graham answers him in the clipped tone he uses with suppliers who have missed a deadline. June holds the suspension notice against her chest. I can increase the severance, she says. You think that's the part that hurts? I think you signed a lease 6 weeks ago. I think your savings went into the deposit and furniture. I think you have enough pride to pretend money doesn't frighten you. The accuracy of it is crueler than Warren's bluntness. My apartment has a green couch I waited 4 months to buy, and a dining table that still has one leg braced with folded cardboard. I had chosen the place because the promotion Graham promised would cover the higher rent. The first payment is due Friday. Money frightens me, I say. So does having Graham's version attached to my name. I can control the reference. You couldn't control the room this morning. Her lips part. I wish she would get angry. June's anger is familiar. It comes with lists, movement, things that can be fixed. Instead, she looks tired. He's made mistakes, she says. He also got us Meridian. He got the hub approved. He has 112 employees looking to him. He had 1 employee available to blame. You don't know that. Neither do you, but you brought severance anyway. I step outside before she can touch me again. By the time I reach my apartment, Northline has disabled my email. My access to the inventory portal is gone, along with the promotion calendar, supplier messages, and the photographs attached to Saturday's count. A letter from Paul waits in my personal inbox. It repeats the suspension terms and instructs me to avoid contact with employees, customers, suppliers, and service vendors during the review. Attached is Graham's alarm export. I open it on my laptop. The graph begins at 11:45 Sunday night with the room already at 41.8 degrees. It rises to 44.3, flattens, then drops sharply after 5 in the morning. The event table shows MV acknowledging the high alarm at 12:20. The report has no device serial number, no setpoint field, no administrative event column, no user authentication type. And the first event on the page is numbered 88419. The next is 88427. 8 events are missing. I stare at the gap until my apartment goes quiet around me. At 9 the next morning, I carry the unopened severance folder into a diner near the service road. Ray Dombrowski is waiting in the last booth, rolling a paper coffee sleeve between his palms. Ray has serviced Northline's refrigeration equipment for 12 years. He wears work shirts with his name embroidered over the pocket and reads every menu as though it contains electrical specifications. You're not supposed to contact me, I say. I contacted you. That distinction won't impress Graham. Nothing impresses Graham unless it has his name engraved on it. The waitress fills my cup. Ray waits until she leaves, then slides his phone across the table. On the screen is a photograph of the fresh room controller. The display reads Set Point 44.0. A smaller line beneath it reads Manual Override Active. The photograph is time-stamped 9:48 Sunday night. Why do you have this? Graham sent it to me. Asked whether running there for 6 hours would hurt the compressor. What did you say? I said the compressor would be fine and the product wouldn't. My hand tightens around the coffee cup. Ray looks toward the kitchen. He told me they were emptying the room first. They didn't. I figured that out Monday. Did you change the set point? No. Remote access shows who logs in. I told him where the override menu was because he said the main panel had frozen. Did it? Worked perfectly when I checked yesterday. The waitress returns with toast neither of us ordered. Ray takes a piece anyway. He called me after you left, he says. Wanted me to write that a fan relay stuck and caused the temperature rise. What did you tell him? That a stuck relay doesn't type 44 into a control panel. Despite everything, I laugh once. Ray bites into the toast. He didn't. Did you write anything? No, but Northline is 18% of my service business. He reminded me. There is shame in the way he says it, and defiance underneath. I slide the phone back. Keep the original message. Keep the photograph where it is. Don't send it to me. You don't want a copy? I want the source intact. He studies me for a second. Your aunt trained you. Yes. What happened to her? I think she trained Graham, too. When I leave the diner, I sit in my car and reply to Paul's email. I decline the severance offer. I dispute every allegation. I request copies of my Saturday count, attached photographs, alarm routing history, and Luis's custody records. I repeat the preservation list and add Ray's Saturday service message. Then I copy Denise and June. Before I can send it, another email arrives from Graham. The subject line reads, Corrective Action Meridian. Attached is a revised report. This one begins at midnight, closing the visible gap even further. Beneath the attachment, Graham has written 4 sentences. Your continued refusal to accept the documented sequence is concerning. Meridian requires resolution today. Disposal of affected inventory will begin at 3 p.m. to prevent further loss and sanitation risk. Any interference will be treated as misconduct. I add one final sentence to my reply. Disposal must preserve all lot cards, wraps, seals, photographs, weights, and chain of custody records, and Meridian should be notified before client-designated stock is destroyed. Then I press send. 3 minutes later, Denise replies to everyone. Agreed. Halt disposal pending board review. Graham answers 1 minute after that. Operational decisions remain under my authority. I look at the 2 messages side by side. He has noticed resistance, and now he is in a hurry. At 2:41, Dana Chen replies to the email chain. Meridian-designated inventory may not be destroyed, repacked, sampled, or moved off hold without written client authorization. I will be on site at 3 o'clock. Graham does not answer. Denise sends a single line. Mara, remain off-site under the terms of your suspension. I obey, which is harder than disobeying. At 3, I am sitting at my new dining table with my laptop open and one folded furniture shim slipping under the short leg. Every time I type, the water in my glass trembles. I pull the unopened severance agreement from my purse, fold it twice, and wedge it under the table. The table becomes steady. At 3:26, Paul sends a formal notice that disposal has been postponed. At 3:40, my landlord's payment reminder appears. At 4:03, Graham sends the board a memorandum titled Preliminary Root Cause Analysis. He copies me because my alleged failure occupies page 1. According to the memo, a refrigeration relay may have created unstable cooling behavior, while an inventory employee failed to escalate the alarm. The manual set point is mentioned only once, in a footnote suggesting a service technician could have changed it during remote diagnostics. Ray's name is absent, but his company is identified. Graham has widened the circle. If I will not carry the loss alone, Ray can help. I forward the memo to Ray with no commentary, then remember the instruction against contacting vendors and swear at my steady table. His reply comes 10 minutes later. He already sent it to me. Attached is a photograph of an envelope Graham's driver delivered to Ray's shop. Inside is a request for a signed service statement and a new annual maintenance proposal worth nearly double Ray's existing contract. I type, "Don't sign anything you can't support, then delete it." The next morning, Denise invites me to a document review at Northline. She has been appointed to lead the board's inquiry with Paul handling records. Graham objected, Warren supported him, and June broke the tie in Denise's favor. The visitor badge Luis gives me at reception has a red stripe and expires in 2 hours. "You're a dangerous guest now," he says. "Hide the pencils." He touches the breast pocket of his uniform. "Already did." Denise has taken over the small conference room beside payroll. Boxes of purchase orders line one wall, and somebody has left a plastic skeleton from last year's safety campaign in the corner. It wears a hard hat and points one bony finger toward the emergency exit. Paul sits beneath it with two laptops. Graham is not present. His attorney advised him not to participate in an informal inquiry, Denise says. He has an attorney. He has a golfing partner with letterhead. Paul looks offended on behalf of actual letterhead. On the table are copies of my Saturday count, the suspension notice, Graham's 2 alarm exports, Luis's custody forms, and my black notebook still sealed in its property pouch. The pink service message is missing. Graham says it was discarded as non-essential, Paul says. He removed it after the suspension began. I know, Luis documented it. Was reception's message log preserved? Paul opens a spreadsheet. Carla logs service calls by extension. Ray called at 5:10 Saturday. Duration 53 seconds. She routed the message to your desk because Graham's office line went unanswered. Where was Graham? He badged into the executive entrance at 9:12 Sunday morning. No recorded exit. He uses the vehicle gate, which doesn't require a badge, Denise says. We're checking camera retention. I sit down. Do I have access to my count photographs? Paul rotates a laptop toward me. The Saturday record shows 26 attachments, but 11 are gray squares marked File Unavailable. Why? The system says they were archived during a storage cleanup Sunday afternoon. Who ran it? Administrative account. Whose? Paul's eyes move toward Denise. Denise says, Graham's office says multiple managers share the administrative password. I stare at her. I've already explained why that answer is unacceptable, she adds. The available images show the Eastern racks, the tuna case, and hold 3. I open the hold photograph. 2 white cartons of scallops sit inside the red quarantine cage. The lot card is taped beneath the latch, and my yellow line runs cleanly from the card across the clear tape. I zoom in. Behind the cage, on the lower rack, is one of the hamachi pallets. Only its corner is visible, but the yellow mark crosses the tag and wrap in one continuous stroke. Monday, I say. Dana crouched beside that pallet. Denise opens the photographs Dana took during the audit. In her image, the same lot number appears on a pallet near the cold room door. The wrap is new. The yellow lines fail to meet. Paul leans closer. Could the pallet have been moved intact? The tag is attached to the rack-facing side on Saturday. Monday, it's on the aisle side and the wrap pattern changed. Look at the overlap. Denise compares the images. Who can re-wrap? Anyone in receiving. The machine code logs the operator if they use the turntable. Hand wrapping doesn't. Why move the tag? To change what inventory was in the room during the temperature event, or to make my last count look inaccurate. Paul brings up the inventory history. The lot location changed at 6:22 Monday morning. Under whose login? Shared warehouse terminal. Of course. But the terminal is on camera, Denise says. Paul's expression changes. He types, opens the retention index, then sits back. The camera covering that terminal stopped reporting at 6:11. I feel the room tilt toward Graham's version, as though every missing record makes him stronger. What about the dock cameras? Operational, Paul says. They show wrapped pallets moving down the west aisle, but the rack blocks the terminal. Who was on the forklift? Face is obscured, orange freezer coat. Everybody in receiving wears one. Denise lays her pen down. Mara, I need you to understand the limits here. We have suspicious activity, incomplete records, and a strong indication that product tags were moved. We do not yet have proof of who altered them. I understand. The alarm still shows your initials. On an export, yes. The local history will show the authenticated user. If it retained those fields, it does. How certain are you? I wrote the logger verification procedure after our insurer required individual audit trails. Sentinel stores set point changes, alarm routing, login method, and acknowledgments in local memory for 18 months. Paul searches the files. The procedure is here, approved by Graham last August. Denise reads the approval page. Does he know what the device retains? He initialed the procedure. That wasn't what I asked. I think about Graham signing documents while talking, sliding pages back before the ink dried. He was competent in motion. He understood freight lanes, negotiating leverage, the point at which a supplier would accept a penalty instead of losing volume. Procedures bored him until he needed one as a weapon. He knows there is local memory, I say. I don't know if he understands how much it keeps. Paul turns another page. Who can extract it? Northline can export summaries through Sentinel's dashboard. The manufacturer's service reader pulls the untouched event history directly from the unit. Do we have a reader? No, Meridian does. Denise looks at Dana's Monday photographs again. Convenient. For the client, I say. That's why it was written into their contract. Luis knocks and enters carrying another sealed pouch. Found this in outgoing waste, he says. Inside is the pink service message from Ray. A brown coffee stain darkens one corner. Graham had folded it once. The crease still runs through Ray's name. I thought it was discarded, Paul says. It was. Luis looks at me. Executive office trash goes into locked document bins. Shredding vendor comes Fridays. I ask them to pull the bag. Who authorized you to search it? Denise asks. You did when you said preserve all service communications. One corner of Denise's mouth moves. Good answer. Luis signs the custody transfer and places the pouch beside my notebook. Before leaving, he looks at the gray missing photographs on Paul's screen. Those gone? Archived, Paul says. Is that different? Technically. Luis nods. My first supervisor used to say technically when he meant don't ask again. He leaves. Denise permits me to copy relevant pages from my notebook under supervision. The entry for Saturday is brief, 442 count complete. Hold 3, scallops 38.1, secondary check, Hama allocation short 46 CS. Bay fan still pending, yellow seals complete ERAC. On the next line I had written, ask G Monday contingency. Graham will say the note proves I knew the allocation was short and should have anticipated operational action. It also proves the yellow seals were intact when I left. I copy the page and surrender the notebook again. As Paul reseals it, his laptop chimes. Graham submitted an amended corrective action, he says. Denise reads over his shoulder. He's removed the relay theory. What replaced it? Unauthorized remote access by a service vendor combined with employee failure to respond. He is learning from each piece of resistance. Ray's photograph could prove the override existed, so Graham has conceded it. Now the fight is over who made it and why I failed to stop it. Paul scrolls. He says Ray's service account had remote permissions. It probably did, I say. Denise studies me. Can the logger distinguish a service account from a director login? Yes. And the dashboard export? If you include authentication fields, which Graham did not. My suspension ends Friday without a finding. Northline extends it another week, still paid, while the lender postpones its decision. June leaves 2 messages I do not answer. Warren sends none. The green couch goes back to the furniture store on Saturday. I tell the clerk it does not fit the room. He measures the doorway, looks at me, and politely agrees. The refund covers rent and leaves a pale rectangle on the floor where the couch sat. On Monday, a seafood recruiter I have known for years sends me a job description for an inventory analyst position, then withdraws it that afternoon. Off the record, I heard Meridian had a temperature control issue tied to your shift. Let's reconnect when it's resolved. Graham's version has escaped Northline. I print the message and add it to the folder on my steady table. That evening, June comes to my apartment carrying 2 paper bags of Thai food. She notices the empty space where the couch was and says nothing. We eat at the table. The severance agreement is still folded beneath one leg. Denise wants to call a special board meeting, she says, then call one. Warren says she is conducting a prosecution. Warren said you needed someone responsible. June pushes noodles around her carton. He should never have said that. He was the most honest person in the room. She looks toward the blank wall. Graham told me the cold room could be stabilized before product crossed Meridian's limits. He said he had contingency options. When? Friday. The fork stops halfway to my mouth. You knew the tempering bay was down. I knew the fan motor was delayed. I approved expedited freight. Did he tell you he planned to use the fresh room? No. Did you ask what his contingency was? I trusted him to manage operations. She says it like a confession she cannot quite make. Will you tell Denise? I already did. That surprises me. June closes her carton. Dana is requesting a controlled reconstruction on Wednesday. Full board present. Ray, Luis, Paul, Graham, and you. She is bringing Meridian's reader. Graham agreed. He says the history will clear him. Does he believe that? I don't know what he believes anymore. I pull the severance agreement from under the table. The table rocks again. June watches me place the folded pages between us. If I attend, I say, the logger stays installed until Dana reads it. Ray is present for the extraction. Luis controls the room and every device taken from it. The board receives the raw event history, not Graham's report. He'll call that hostile. It is controlled, and if the history is incomplete, then we deal with incomplete. If it shows your initials, I hold her gaze. Then I deal with mine. June takes the agreement and smooths it flat with both hands. I'll accept your conditions, she says. You don't get to accept them for everyone. No. Her eyes settle on the signature line I left blank. But I can put them to a vote. After she leaves, an email arrives from Dana. Wednesday, 8 a.m. Please confirm attendance. Bring no company records. We will inspect source data on site. Below her signature is a photograph from Monday's audit. Graham holding his printed report beside the logger while my broken yellow seal shows in the background. I reply with one word, confirmed. Luis refuses to let me through the employee gate until the second hand reaches 12. 8 means 8, he says. You held me outside for 40 seconds. I protected you from unauthorized attendance. He gives me another red-striped visitor badge. My regular badge and yellow pencil remain in the clear property pouch under his arm. The pencil has dusted the inside of the plastic gold. Who has custody of the logger? I ask. Currently, the wall. Good. He leads me to the cold room. Dana is arranging equipment on a stainless steel cart. Meridian service reader, 2 cables, a tablet, a barcode scanner, and a compact printer. Ray stands beside her in his embroidered work shirt, rubbing his hands together against the cold. Paul has a laptop. Denise has her legal pad. June, Warren, and Graham wait near the quarantined pallets. Graham wears the same charcoal suit he wore Monday, or one close enough to make the choice deliberate. A folder rests beneath his arm. You're late, he says. Dana checks her watch. She entered at 8. She should have been staged before the audit. She is not part of your staff today. The sentence leaves a clean cut in the air. Dana hands Luis a numbered evidence seal. Please photograph the logger, the controller, and all visible connections before anyone touches them. Graham opens his folder. Before we begin, I want the record to reflect my objection to an employee participating in a client audit while under investigation. Denise writes without looking up. Reflected. I also object to raw operational data being distributed beyond authorized management. Meridian's authorization is in the monitoring addendum you signed, Dana says. I'm aware of the contract. I assumed so. Ray coughs into his fist to hide something that might be a laugh. Dana photographs the logger's serial plate, then scans it. The number appears on her tablet beside Meridian's supplier record. This serial number does not appear on either report provided Monday, she says. The reports came from our central dashboard, Graham replies. The device number wasn't relevant to the root cause. It is relevant to identifying the device. We have one logger in this room. Dana looks around at the controller, 2 air sensors, the product probe port, and the logger mounted above the light switch. You have one today. Paul stops typing for half a second. Dana asks Luis to cut the evidence seal she placed over the data port during Monday afternoon's hold inspection. He bags the cut seal, writes the time, and signs across the pouch. Graham shifts his weight. That seal wasn't board authorized. It was client authorized, Dana says. This room contained our designated stock. She connects the reader but does not start the extraction. Instead, she turns to Graham. On Monday, you said Ms. Vale ignored a high-temperature alarm. You provided a report showing her initials beside an acknowledgement. Is that still Northline's position? The available evidence supports it. And the manual override. Our review indicates a service account had remote capability. Ray steps forward. My account never connected. Graham barely turns his head. Your company had credentials. My company also keeps access logs. You gave me instructions to reach the override menu. You told me the panel froze. It had. Ray's face reddens, but Dana raises one hand. We'll take statements after the extraction. Mr. Vale, did you personally change the fresh room set point? No. Did you authorize anyone to change it? No. Did you remove Mara Vale from the weekend alarm group? No. Did you acknowledge the 12:14 alarm? No. Dana studies him long enough that the evaporator fans cycle off. The sudden quiet makes the cold room feel smaller. Then she turns to the board. I want to inspect the logger's untouched history. June nods. Warren looks at Graham, waiting for him to object. Graham adjusts the folder under his arm and says nothing. Dana starts the extraction. A progress bar moves across her tablet. 2%, 9, 17. Condensation gathers along the edge of the stainless steel cart. Ray wipes it with his sleeve before it can reach the printer. At 43%, Graham says, local histories can be misleading without the dashboard context. Dana watches the progress bar. Then the dashboard will clarify it afterward. At 61, June walks to the nearest pallet. Her fingers hover over the broken yellow line but do not touch it. At 88, Warren asks, how long does this take? As long as the history is, Dana says. The reader reaches 100% and emits a soft chime. Nobody moves. Dana saves the raw file to 2 encrypted drives. She hands one to Luis, who seals it and records the time. She keeps the other connected to her tablet. Event history begins 18 months ago, she says. No reset recorded. No deletion event recorded. Device clock matches. Meridian reference time within 4 seconds. Graham's folder creaks under his hand. Dana filters to Sunday. The first relevant event appears at 9:42 p.m. Authenticated local login. GVALE-DIR. Below it. Manual set point override. 34.0 degrees Fahrenheit to 44.0 degrees Fahrenheit. Ray closes his eyes briefly. Dana continues. At 9:44, notification group modified. User MVALE removed. At 9:47, override duration set. 0600. Ray points to the screen. He sent me the controller photo at 9:48. Paul opens the photograph Ray provided and compares the timestamps. Dana enters it into the audit record. Graham's voice stays level. My credentials were available to operations personnel. Your director credentials? Denise asks. The company has had poor credential discipline. Mara herself raised that concern. I almost admire the turn. He has taken one of my complaints and made it an escape route. Dana opens the authentication detail. Local panel login, she says. Director PIN followed by mobile confirmation sent to the number ending in 0188. Every face turns toward Graham. He takes his phone from his pocket, looks at it, then seems to realize what he has done. Warren says, that's your number. Numbers can be spoofed. Dana's expression does not change. Your Monday report classified this as a remote acknowledgement by MV. The source history records a local login and mobile confirmation by GVALE-DIR. It records a credential. It doesn't record a person. Your executive door badge entry places you on site Sunday morning, Paul says. That was 12 hours earlier. And your message to Ray includes a photograph of this controller 1 minute after the override duration was entered, Denise says. Graham looks at Ray. You told me the compressor could handle it. I told you the product couldn't. You said 6 hours was manageable. For the compressor. Graham's voice rises for the first time. Because I asked about the compressor. Exactly, Ray says. Dana scrolls. At 12:14 a.m., the high-temperature alarm triggered. At 12:20, alarm acknowledged, GVAL-DIR remote administrator. At 5:03, manual set point restored. 44.0 degrees Fahrenheit to 34.0 degrees Fahrenheit. At 5:19, event response assignment, modified, Vale. At 5:21, summary export generated, administrative events excluded. Dana opens Graham's Monday report beside the raw history. MV was not the authenticated user, she says. It was a response assignment label added after the temperature event. Your export displayed that label beside the acknowledgement while suppressing the user authentication field. Graham looks at Paul. Your department generates compliance reports. Not this one, Paul says. The export record identifies your administrative account. You said managers shared it. No, your office said that. The distinction lands softly and stays there. Dana turns the tablet so the full board can see it. This device records that Graham Vale overrode the temperature controls, removed Mara Vale from the alarm list, acknowledged the resulting alarm, restored the set point, assigned the response to her, and exported a report that concealed his administrative actions. The cold room fans start again. Graham walks to the quarantined pallet and presses one thumb against the loose edge of its wrap. The container was late, he says. The bay was down. Meridian wanted launch volume we didn't have. The lender wanted proof we could handle the account. Every person standing here expected me to solve that. June's voice is quiet. I expected you to tell me the contingency. You didn't want details. You wanted Wednesday's lender meeting to go well. I asked whether the product would remain in specification. And I believed we could finish the pull before it crossed limits. But you didn't, Warren says. Graham turns on him. Because the night truck blocked the aisle for 2 hours. Because receiving put 3 people on oysters after I told them hamachi came first. Because this place runs on habits Mara designed, and nobody changes anything unless she blesses it. So you removed her from the alarm group? Denise asks. I needed one decision chain. You needed her not to stop you, I say. He looks at me then. The anger is gone. What remains is more familiar. The exhausted certainty that he has always been the person forced to do what the rest of us were too timid to do. You think Dana will thank you for this? He asks. You think the bank will? When the hub dies and people lose hours, you'll still be the woman who chose a logger over her family. No, I say. I'm the woman you put on the report because you thought my family would make me sign it. June grips the edge of the stainless steel cart. Dana removes her gloves 1 finger at a time. Meridian is suspending purchases released under Graham Vale's authority, effective immediately. Product currently on hold remains under hold. We will consider a limited recovery schedule if Northline appoints inventory control independent of operations, completes an outside traceability review, and submits a corrective action plan based on the source history. Warren looks alarmed. Suspending all purchases? Purchases under his authority. Your existing sealed inventory may be evaluated lot by lot. That will take weeks. It will take records. Graham gives a short, humorless laugh. There it is. Mara gets to run the company from a quarantine cage. I didn't offer her anything, Dana says. I stated what Meridian requires. Denise closes her legal pad. The board needs the room. Graham remains beside the pallet. June faces him. You too. For a moment, I think he will refuse. Then he places his folder on the cart and walks out past Luis. I follow Ray into the warehouse. Through the cold room window, the board takes 4 seats around the cart. Warren stands. June speaks first. Denise opens the raw history. Paul turns his laptop toward them. Ray leans against a rack of insulated totes. "I'm probably losing the contract," he says. "So am I." "Yeah, but you looked better doing it." I laugh, and the sound feels strange after 2 weeks of measuring every word. Luis joins us, still holding the sealed drive. "Board wants Graham back inside," he says. "Not you." "What about my notebook?" "Still mine." "And the pencil?" "Company investigation's not over." Ray looks at the yellow dust coating the pouch. "What did the pencil do?" "Kept better records than management," Luis says. "The board places Graham on administrative leave that morning. By Friday, an outside traceability firm confirms that the spoiled pallets were rewrapped and their lot cards moved before Dana arrived Monday. Dock footage cannot identify the forklift operator, but the warehouse terminal records an emergency supervisory session issued from Graham's office. He resigns before the final board vote removes him. Northline disposes of the compromised stock under documented supervision. The insurer covers part of the loss and refuses the rest. The lender delays the hub for 6 months. Meridian resumes a reduced schedule after Dana's team clears each lot. Weekend hours disappear for a while, and people who once avoided my eyes become careful around me, as if honesty might be contagious or dangerous. Warren stops coming to the office. He sends June long emails about loyalty and copies nobody else. June offers me Graham's office. I meet her and Denise in the conference room beneath the plastic skeleton. "I don't want his chair," I say. June's face tightens. "It was always supposed to be your promotion." "No, I was supposed to get an office near inventory. This is different." I slide my terms across the table. Inventory control manager. Salary retroactive to the date Graham promised the promotion. Written quarantine authority. Direct access to the board's outside compliance committee. And a rule preventing any family director from altering inventory records without a second authenticated approval. Denise reads each page. June looks at me over the top of hers. "You're negotiating like you don't trust me." "I'm negotiating so trust doesn't have to carry the whole load." She lowers the paper. "I'm sorry," she says. "It is not enough to restore what existed before Monday. It is enough to keep the conversation honest." Denise signs first. June signs second. 3 months later, Dana stands beside Northline's first complete Meridian launch pallet, while I finish the release check. My replacement badge carries my new title. Clipped beside it is the yellow wax pencil Luis returned after the investigation. Its paper casing is softer, and the point has worn down to a blunt edge. I draw a clean yellow line from the lot card across the tape and onto the cold plastic wrap. Dana checks the seal number, verifies the temperature history, and signs beneath my mark. The forklift lifts the pallet. I hold the door while it moves into the loading bay under my release, the yellow line unbroken all the way out.